The one thing you will always hear complaints about is the price of model railroading. And I get it, but I also get a lot of comments about it. But something wasn't tracking quite right with these comments. A lot of people are telling me prices that they pay that are sometimes $50 to over $100 higher than what I typically pay. And I'm not talking about people in different countries that have to worry about shipping cost plus any sort of tariffs or anything like that. I'm talking about people in the States right here that are buying the same stuff that I am. So, how do you save money while you are buying trains? Well, I'll show you how I do it, including following me for a bit in a train show, and you get to see me do a bit of haggling. This video is going to go through all the little tips and tricks that I use to save money when buying trains. Let's start with engines, which is where the number one complaint is for most things. The number one thing that I do with nearly every locomotive that I buy is that I buy DCC Ready if I can. DCC Ready does not have a decoder in it, therefore making it a lot cheaper. The thing about most non-DCC locomotives these days that are new is that they are DCC ready with some exceptions. This means that they are ready for a decoder to plug right in, whether it's a drop-in decoder or a standardized socket. These are three of my most recent acquisitions. There are two Katos and an Atlas locomotive. The two Katos are an SD9043 and an Amtrak Siemens Charger. The decoders for these are in the drop-in category of decoders. They have specific decoders designed to fit that manufacturers make. You are replacing the light board that sits on top of the locomotive and you fit it into slots. The motor contacts are either on top of the chassis or on each side. The Atlas locomotive is a Jeep 15 and is similar to the Kato, but it has one noticeable difference. The motor contacts come up through the middle, and this makes it a bit harder to simply slide in. Ultimately, I decided to pop apart the chassis, which just involves taking out two screws, and these things are incredibly simple. Just make sure you don't lose those screws or nuts that hold the chassis together. And I just simply did the attachment of the little drop-in decoder and put everything back in around it. No wiring required. Speaking of this little Atlas locomotive, this is my latest acquisition. It is an Atlas Jeep 15-1, and it is from their Trainman product line, which is their more budget-friendly product line. I picked this engine up for $85 new before shipping, and I will link that in the description below. It's got a lot of nice detail on it. It's mostly molded on detail, but it's a nice-looking locomotive. It doesn't have any fancy light features, but it's a simple creature, but it looks pretty good, and it runs really well on my layout. Let's take a look. The companies that have budget-friendly product lines are a great option for many people, whether it's Atlas Trainman, Walther's Trainline, Athearn Roundhouse, Bachmann has kind of like nondescript budget items there, and there's many others as well. They're not the most detailed locomotives ever, but for the most of the time, they're usually solid runners because they're not new tooling. They're something that's tried and true and brought down to the budget level. Now, when it comes to DCC, one of the great perks of buying DCC Ready is the ability to pick your own decoder. This is another place that I save money. You can find non-sound decoders from companies like Digitrax sometimes for under 30 bucks, definitely under 40 bucks. I'll also buy decoders from NCE, especially if you're looking for a Next 18 decoder. This also applies to HL scalers where there is more standardization in terms of plugs like a 21-pin plug. If you want to upgrade to sound down the road, you can, but you don't have to spend that money right now. And that's another point. Usually, when you're looking at various locomotives that you're trying to buy, it's either DCC ready or it's already got DCC and sound. Very few locomotives have that simply DCC only with no sound in that middle area. So that's going to save you money as well versus buying DCC installed. Now for rolling stock. I could simply talk about how to buy for cheap and show you some images of things to buy online, or I could take you along as I go into a train show. Now, I'm looking to build an auto rack train probably around 10 cars long. So I am on the hunt for these. Let's go to the Hickory train show from earlier this month. So one cool thing about this show in particular, this is the Hickory Model Train Show, is that I am actually a sponsor. And I decided to sponsor it. This is run by the Newton Depot in Newton, North Carolina. Really great place to go and check out. It's the North Carolina Narrow Gauge and Short Line Museum. Really, really cool thing. But yeah, I decided to sponsor the show this year, so pretty cool. The first thing I went to look for was just some inexpensive HO scale stuff that me and my son run to just on a loop of track, and I also want to show him how to find good deals. So buddy, if you look at these, this runs and it's only $10.
I love $10 trains.
You want to get this one?
Yeah.
So we just did our first stop, got a bunch of HO scale stuff for $40 and got about 9 or 10 cars and a locomotive that works. So that was pretty good. So we're going to keep looking around. Now I was on the hunt. We're going to go check out some of the N-scale places. Now there's usually less N-scale than HO scale, but there was still a good amount here, and sure enough, I did find some auto rack cars. I found some Intermountain ones as well as some Atlas ones as well. Okay, so I found some, but I need to keep looking and make sure. My strategy is always to go look around and make sure I see everything before I spend money. So that's what I'm doing right now. I visited every N-scale table I could find. I dug through tubs just to make sure that I didn't leave any stone unturned. And I think there were about 6 or 7 real big N-scale tables at this show, and I looked through them all. All right, so I've walked around pretty much the entire train show, and it looks like those are the only cars. So I'm going to go maybe try to do a little bit of haggling and get the cars. Let's see if we can get them. The best you could do on those 3. 165? I can do that. All right, I was able to get 3 auto rack cars for about 165, including one that I don't think I can find for sale anymore. So I think that's a pretty good deal. I know I can find them cheaper in some places, but I also like supporting the little local guys that come to the shows. So pretty happy with that. We're gonna go look at some layouts and see what else we got around here. Well, I got my stuff right here. Didn't go too crazy, but overall, great show. Had a blast. We'll keep building this auto rack train. Let's get that working. Now, in addition to this, I am picking up old Concore auto racks, which is an older brand of N-scale. I'm not paying too much attention to the road names because I intend to weather them up, and I see road names from all over the country where I live, so it's not that specific that I need a specific road name. Now, I'm picking these up for under $30 each, which is pretty good. They do need new couplers, and I plan on doing that. I'm just not sure if body mounts or truck mounts are going to work best for my layout, so I'm going to have to do some testing on that. Once I have several of these cars, I intend to buy a pack of new couplers to install on those so that I can buy it all at once in bulk for cheaper per unit. Now, this is all great, but there are loads of locomotives that are more expensive that you may want. You may want a specific locomotive or a locomotive with a specific road number on it. I'm thinking of things like where Scale Trains offers specific locomotives that are detailed slightly differently. You may want that. For these, I typically see them way in advance. I always have my emails that I'm checking, which I have a whole video about that I'll link at the end. And I will take the pre-order route. The big benefit of this is that it gives me time to save up money. Usually with pre-orders, you have at least a few months, and in some cases, you may have over a year to do this. I have one that I've been waiting on for 3 years now, and I've had that money tucked away for a while. So I'm actually picking up 2 of them because I was able to save up enough money to get 2 of them. So this gives you a ton of time to be ready for that purchase. So let's go over my train buying strategy. Number 1 is to buy DCC Ready and buy cheaper decoders. Number 2 is budget locomotives instead of premiums when I can. Number 3 is to utilize things like train shows in the used market. And number 4 is to utilize pre-orders for those more expensive locomotives so I can budget them in better.
Check out some of these model railroad businesses.
Trains in the Valley. Trains in the Valley is a model train shop located in Pennsylvania. They sell new and used model trains with a mission to make trains accessible to everyone. You can check them out at trainsinthevalley.com, link in the description. Model Railway Backshop is a great place if you're looking for a quality paint job for your old or new brass model locomotive. And if you're also looking to get it weathered, you can get that done there too, plus DCC and sound upgrades. And right now you can get 10% off any brass model painting and weathering job by using the promo code NMRA10. Check them out at modelrailwaybackshop.com. Penguin 3D Workshop offers 3D prints and electronics for model railroading, specializing in hard or impossible to find train parts, and they also offer custom designing and printing. Use promo code DDRR5OFF to get 5% off your order. Check them out at penguin3dworkshop.com. So how do you buy trains, and what are your tips? Let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, and happy railroading.